idziemy, będziemy trzeba iść w jedno miejsce albo w jakieś miejsce. Ja już będę przed wami, bo nie wiem czy tam się, możemy z tyłu się... Gdzie to jest kwestia? Nieważne. Chodźmy, to znaczy ja bym chyba przed nim udać, nie sobie. Hi.
Alright, good morning everyone. Let's wait for 1 other minute so that everybody settles down. Am I audible in the back? Yes, no? Wait, go. Alright, good morning everyone. And welcome to for the presentation for the semester project. If we haven't met before in Monday's class, I'm Devinder, I'm assistant professor at SDU, and I will be the project coordinator for your semester project for this semester. Without further delay, I think we should get started with the project presentation. I think students are keep coming. I'm not sure if I can interrupt the presentation because the room setup is quite odd, honestly. There's not enough space for everyone. But anyway, I will pass that on to the administration to take care of the next time. So, just a brief overview about how would we go about with today's presentation. So, in total we have 6 projects sponsored by the companies and research organizations. And then we go over the detailed presentation of each of the projects, and then we will discuss about the group formation and project room allocation, semester planning, and the process of how you go about conducting your whole semester project, including reports and examination. So here we are in your academic journey. We are in the 4th semester, and you have the intelligence software system project. You have been doing the projects in previous semester as well. The key difference for this year, so for this semester project, is that you are expected to use all your previous knowledge. It's not just, so we have listed the four courses here, but you are expected to apply everything that you have learned previously. So it's like understood that you will apply all the knowledge that you have acquired. And of course, these four courses will be the main foundation for the work that you do. Okay, so this you already know the instructor. If you probably have had the classes. So component-based system that I am teaching. Then Kickoff is teaching the embedded system, and then data structure and algorithm, and AI courses that Serkan is teaching. So all the projects that you will hear in a moment, they will have, a bit of all of the courses that you are learning. So all of that would be part of the project formulations, and you are expected to synthesize the knowledge that you learn in these courses as much as possible. Okay, the key learning objective for the semester, as you probably have read in the course description itself, that you learn how to design. It's just one thing that I wanted to highlight here is that most often students think that the task in this semester project is to get done with the final product that they're building. So product building is of course one of the aspect of this, but this whole journey, you learn how to work in a team. You learn how to like sort of use the tool properly and document your journey. Like all of these intermediate steps are equally important, and that will become much more clear when I discuss about how the examiners actually look at your final product, the rubrics that we are going to talk about, how you will be evaluated. So just keep in mind that not just the final prototype, but all the intermediate steps that you are going to do throughout the semester, please try to document them as much as possible, because they will form the basis of your grading. And often I see that students, they have really good prototype, but the grades are poor, and then they complain like why despite having good prototype they got poor grades. And that's because they miss out on some of the intermediate steps. They think, oh, the project is too small, I can remember everything in my head, and I don't have to follow the process. The process is equally important, so that's what I wanted to emphasize here. All right. So without further delay, we'll start with the project presentation. And first, so probably we'll have 10 minutes for each project, but it's flexible. You can extend to a certain extent. So the first project I have in line is AI analysis for resource log. That is has been proposed by Speed Admin, and I have good fortune having the Speed Admin CEO and Nikhil from Speed Admin to present the use case for you. So please give a big round of applause for them, for they have taken out their time to.
Let's get started. Thanks for seeing us. So what you have in front of you is Niklas, who is the developer for us, but he's been with us for 2 years, and he's actually one of your guys, because I think you started in your second semester, and you're on your sixth semester and doing your bachelor. So but Niklas will also be your supervisor from our side in the project. And myself, I'm Michael. I'm the CEO of the company. And just a few words about who we are. Speedadmin is a very vertical business doing admin software and learning, LMS, learning management systems for music and art school administration. And we have done that since 2006. We are by far the largest in northern part of Europe. We are in 9 countries by now, and as you can see, more than close to 700 schools, and we have more than 2 million users. In the company itself, we are 42 employees, 33 here in Sonderburg. We placed down just in front of Altion on the other side of the water, and in the company itself, English is spoken, German is spoken, Danish is spoken, Icelandic is spoken. We are actually six different nationalities in the company, so it's quite an international sphere. So that's pretty nice and pretty cool. I guess that's everything I want to tell. I could use half an hour talking about the company and who we are and all kinds of stuff, but I won't. I would rather ask Niklas to go into the more details of the project.
Yes. Does this work? I think I'll skip that and just speak up a little bit. I hope everyone can hear me in the back as well. Oh, perfect. As you have hopefully learned in the past 4 semesters, it is that no solution is perfect and few systems are ever complete, and Speedadmin as well is flawed in some ways, perfect in other ways. But we have reached out to you today to present one of our issues and to ask for your cooperation in solving this issue with us. And the issue we are facing is with our resource logs. So we administrate many different resources, be that instruments, students, guardians, teachers, bookings, courses, all of those things. And whenever something changes in the system, there is a log entry for it in the database. You can view these log entries from the system, but because the logs are so verbose in nature, they can be very hard to understand. Logs link to different resources, So when you add a student to a booking, there will be a link to the booking, there will be a link to a student, and this can quickly become overwhelming and difficult to understand. And what very often happens, even for our own support team, is that the logs become bloated and it becomes hard to, it becomes easy to overlook things. Yeah, here's an example of the logs. Unfortunately, the screenshot quality is not too good, but as part of data privacy measures, for example, we have to show whenever a resource is shown. So you can see here there's a lot of just student shown entries. I'm not sure if it's readable on this display, but you can see that these bloat the logs quite a way. We have 9 pages with usually 25 entries per page for a total of 210 rows on a student that was created last year. So you can imagine how this will look for students that have been in the system for much longer, and you will see the full scale of how big these logs can get later when I talk about the data set. So for the solution and for the objectives of your project academically, we are looking at a few required solutions, at a few required things and a few optional things. What we mainly want is a summarization of logs, an explanation of logs, and we want links to be made between related log entries. So this isn't the links I was talking about where resources are links, but rather that you take one log entry that is made on a booking and you link it to another log entry that is made on a student to find the correlations there. What we want you to find using either artificial intelligence or machine learning technologies, or even both, is patterns in our logs, potential points of interest, and also anomalies. As Devendra mentioned earlier, there are also some other requirements for the system. So you want to orchestrate it in a containerized way, most likely using Docker. And of course, what we also want is model agnostic inputs and outputs, model focusing on AI models here. So if you use a specific AI model in your code, which has to be locally hosted for GDPR purposes, and if that model becomes available at some point, you need to be able to just switch in and out those models without needing to heavily modify the interfaces and the inner working of the solution to work with different models. Oh, I have not talked about the optional one. Apologies. There you go. Yeah, optionally you can share and save the results, and I'm not talking about just exporting it to Excel or printing it to a PDF. I mean having an in-system way of sharing it. When you create a prompt, for example, that summarizes logs in a certain way, and you use that prompt to find something out, you should be able to share that exact prompt, that exact state with another user in the system so they can reproduce what you have done. And finally, this is also optional as a front-end visualization of logs, prompts, and results. I believe Devendra hasn't mentioned this yet. He has mentioned it to our supervisors. A big pitfall for you will be focusing too much on the UI aspect of your application. I felt that myself when I was in your position 1 year ago, where we made a beautiful UI, but we kind of neglected the backend a little bit. So do make sure that the UI is not the main point of your application, which is why it's optional here. Yeah. We also have a recommended tech stack. We recommend SQL Server for all your relational data. That's mainly because we also use it, and the data set we will provide you is using SQL Server. As you know, there are some differences in the flavors of SQL out there. You most likely, was it in the third semester that you did SQL? You most likely use Postgres, so there will be some differences. If at all you need unstructured data, I can, from personal experience, recommend MongoDB. Containerization, Docker, it is enterprise ready, it has huge community support, it is probably the easiest containerization engine to understand. AI machine learning is obviously Python. For a backend, ASP.NET, I believe you all learned .NET and C# in your first 2 semesters, so that should come quite naturally. If you do a frontend, do experience with some modern JavaScript technologies like React if you want. Otherwise, use Blazor or Razor Pages if you want a more tight integration into ASP.NET and don't want to worry about manual API calls or anything. And yeah, that's it for the technology. Finally, the deliverables. This is mainly from an academic point of view, what you need to deliver for the final project at SDU. And that would be the source code for your solution, including the full version control history. So so we can understand what you've done and who's done what. You should have a demo presentation, either live if you are brave like that, or as a video, which is recommended from personal experience. And finally, you want a technical support, and that report should also contain complete architecture and design diagrams. This is yet again an important aspect. And I think that's about it for the deliverables. And finally, let's talk a little bit about the data set that we would be providing you. So I've created a data set from 2 separate databases in our system. Both of these have the same schema, so they are the same. You can run the same queries and the same code on them. There's a total of 18 tables in there per database, and they consist of some logs and some user data. So the logs would be system logs. There would be entity change logs, so when you change, I don't know, the address on a student, that would go in the entity change log. And finally, related entities, which is what relates those entity change logs to the entities in the system. And of course, you will get tables with different entities like students, teachers, bookings, all that sort of stuff. In total, in this data set, there are 29,000 log entries, and 25,000 of those are in one of those databases alone. So that's a very big one and a very small one. And this isn't a real school. This is a school that has been set up from the ground for testing. I think there's less than 10 students, less than 10 bookings, less than 10 teachers. Yet we still reach 25,000 log entries. So you can imagine what this system would look like on a school that has thousands of students, hundreds of teachers, tens of thousands of instruments. There will be, well, I think in some schools we are approaching millions of log lines. So really, you're working with something quite small here. Yeah, should that not be enough for whatever reason, you can request more data sets. I would gladly provide some, as long as we have some schools that have been created from scratch for testing and don't actually contain real user data. Just reach out early, so I have some time to find some and create some. Yeah, and that's about all for the data set. Back to Mikael for some collaboration opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first project we're running with SDU, and we've done quite a few. And so this is just kind of wrapping up some of our experiences, basically. Also, what makes sense for us, and maybe what makes sense for you, because our experience is that even before your exam, that you come to our place and present what you have done. Seems to be a good way. It's a good way of showing off your project. It's a good way of getting some immediate feedback from our guys. And we will, beyond Niklas, our CTO, would also participate in those meetings. And then we typically have done that after your exams, we invited you to our company again and to go more in depth with the things you've done and to get good discussion about it. Because that's for you, getting the real feedback and how we're going to use it makes sense, right? And then the opportunity will be for some of you, if you're really, really interested, that this might be your bachelor project for next year. That's the case for Niklas. The project you started on is actually not quite, but more or less continuing now with your bachelor's. So that's an opportunity. It's a good way of keeping a strong contact and for you to get this feel. This is real. We're going to implement it, right? So that's it for us.
Yes. Thank you very much. If you have any immediate questions at the end of all the presentations, you can ask for all the projects.
I think we can speak.
Oh, you left the slide in? Okay, well, if you have any immediate questions, you can ask them now.
Keep them brief, and for detailed discussion, Nicholas is available after. You will have tons of questions, but anything that immediately pops into your mind, you can feel free to ask.
No, I would say that we're more scale up. If you know the distinction, we were a startup. Initially sitting 4 people around a round table making all the decisions in unison. That's not what we are anymore. With that many people, we had to build structures into the companies and different things. So, but we're in a growth path, and yeah, so maturing from a startup to a real scale-up.
And where are you based?
We're based at the harbourfront, just across from, almost across from the university. You look north, we're the last industrial building on the other hand.
Okay.
Very close to the sauna that is also there.
So one of those campus properties holding on the floor, or?
No,
We're next to the campus.
Oh, so is that the first floor? I think it's like a clothing company. Is that the same sort of building?
it's the building beside that.
Okay. Okay.
This building with the kind of the round roof.
Okay. So, how many? Probably listening to that from the company, right? But how many people? How many staff?
We are, in total, we're 42 people, and here in Sungo we're about 31.
Okay. So the company was started here, so.
Yeah.
You have the same software.
Yeah.
Presenting a software project, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are hardware companies, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we are 100% software company. Initially started up, we are 100% focused on a vertical called music and art schools. We're doing admin software, LMS systems, and learning management systems. So basically controlling, everything around the school, including industry, instrument, we're ranging from schools with a size of 50 students to some of the biggest ones, 20,000 students.
So this is our school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you do it?
We've always been in that vertical.
If I can stop you for a moment, because we need to carry on the presentation. You can meet Nicholas and then one-on-one to discuss more about the company. And this was just a brief sort of questions about the project itself, if you have any. So that would be. Thank you for. And you can always catch up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I guess so. Welcome. So you're just on time. We just finished with the perfect timing. I was thinking, should I start presenting other projects or should I really all right. So some of you are standing in the back. There is still some space in between. Try to break if you like. Sitting is really awful. Like I don't know what they had in mind when they.
I'm gonna take that spot next to Darius, okay?
All right, guys. So we had the presentation for the first project. As I mentioned, we have in total we have 6 projects. So now Christoph will present the other projects, which is sponsored by the company Hamso Engineering. So Christoph will present some of those projects.
Yes, actually the project idea is kind of simple. We would like to design and implement a software system, which is not a game, but a game. It's a multiplayer digital game integrating real-time haptic feedback. So that's why we actually cooperate with Hamso, who has the technology related to the haptic feedback, force feedback. Who knows Hamso? Anyone? As a company in Sonneborn, not far, maybe on the other side of the city.
It's a little bit up. Yeah.
I will use the fluid technology.
Okay.
Does it work? No, this doesn't. Have you tried this one?
Not yet, maybe.
it doesn't. Okay.
No, it's good. This is just maybe a little bit holding up a
Okay.
little bit up.
So I will try to manage.
Yes. No, it's better.
But I feel like a singing star or something. So. And I'm very bad at singing, so bad idea. So what actually happens here, we would like to have a system that engage multiple players. It might be local or networked, and support actually the interaction between human players and AI control agents. So it also fits the semester, of course. But the central focus is the integration of the haptic feedback in kind of gameful approach. So, you know, people actually try to play, I mean, they're really willing to play the game, but at the same time, we would like to make the game responsive and smooth, resilient to input variations, lags, and so on, latencies, because that's typically what happens if you have network system. So it's a bit challenging. So you can wonder what is haptic feedback. It's something that you use nowadays, but you have not realized it yet. It's if you have a touch device, basically you're touching a glass, and that's not very kind of natural, because you would like to normally get a feedback, and that's why in the old systems we had knobs and switches. You could actually see things flopping, and you could actually touch them, right? So we actually do that nowadays with the new, digital circuitry, digital technology, but we use microprocessors and physical actuators to actually drive the screen. That's what happens when you have a modern gamepad with vibrations or mobile phone. Actually, they have that integrated as well. So the screen, which is just a glass normally you're touching, gives you feedback back, letting you know that something happens. And if you think about that, there are different types of haptic feedback. So vibration is kind of one of them, but there's also force feedback, electro type feedback, thermal and ultrasonic. HAMSO actually works on the first two, probably. So thermal would be also cool, but yeah, it's harder to do. Have you been in like 4D cinema? They actually also try to do something like that, right? There's wind blowing, the chairs are shaking, sometimes there's rain, it depends on where you've been. So you actually have a kind of experience of the real environment. So in this project, we expect you to use some game engines, and we are quite flexible. You can use anything you like, probably. That would actually, this project requires you to have some experience with the game engines. So if you are new, probably this project is too challenging. Since you learn C#, Unity is a natural choice. And if you follow the Play and Code Club, then Godot should be also an obvious choice. There are various languages you can use, but that again depends on the technology you want to use for developing the game. For the AI and algorithms, again, you're up to you to select which one actually you want to use to prototype and work on that. This will, if you decide on a networked multiplayer game, you will need to incorporate some of the networking frameworks. Typically, they are part of the game engine and the standard development environment. The issue here is that the integration of the haptic feedback comes through DLLs, and that means Windows. So the platform in this project is Windows. And you will need to use hardware provided by HAMSO. But luckily they have the whole kit kind of integrated already. Good. So at the end we would like you to deliver a software system which actually has some game mechanics and follows a standard software engineering kind of principles. So we want you to actually do a design and develop an architecture and then embed as many elements of the semester, the fourth semester as possible, but of course we build on top of the first 3 semesters as well, right? So we have not forgotten the other subjects we have learned so far. Questions? Yeah?
For the other projects, we have the companies that we can talk to.
Yes.
The reference for this project?
let's see, that depending on how the, but you need to do the project with the company, so we need to talk to the company as well. So we kind of initiating the project, but the equipment is at the company. So we need to talk to Morten.
So, just a clarification. So you would be assigned a supervisor, and the supervisor and you both will be in touch with somebody from the company who will like do the hand holding, and like if in case you need any technical like support. If you're stuck somewhere, if you need any more feedback on any stage, they would help you.
Yeah, Morten couldn't come, so that's the reason we are speaking.
There is a question in the back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Since we need to integrate this hardware with the game, what will be about that you do the control?
It's up to you. You have to decide on the game. And I believe there's tons of different examples. I think the Hamso has a lot of ideas already. The thing is that you have to integrate. It's not about actually making a game per se, kind of on itself. The game has to integrate the haptic feedback provided by the company.
Yeah. So there is a lot of scope for innovation. The things that you want, you are excited about. So there is plenty of scope that you could tailor this into as per your taste and what company needs. So this is quite flexible. What Christoph is presented is primarily the tech stack and how integrated things should look like. But in terms of content, you are flexible to use whatever application that is within that space. Yeah.
So this is just an idea for the project. The project is still semester project 4. You have to integrate the different subjects, but the topic is actually a multiplayer game using haptic feedback. So it's challenging and quite flexible.
Any other questions? So we move to the next. No. Okay.
So yeah, the next one is done in cooperation with the Sonneborg Hospital. Actually, precise is a hospital in the southern region of Denmark, and the dialysis actually department. And it's about integrating or developing, actually designing and implementing a system for movement detection in real-time sensor integration hospital-grade exercise equipment. So you can think about a patient that goes through dialysis, a procedure that require actually him to sit down or lay down for a long period of time. And in order to improve the procedure, they're actually using a bike. I mean, this is actually a, let's say, bike-like system attached to the bed. And the patient actually can also watch certain things, movies, whatever, I mean, is available. So what we would like to have, we would like to have a system that monitors the patient's activity using a Bluetooth motion sensor, generates speed and cadence measurements, and then applies some kind of gamification. So, I mean, the cycling is kind of more entertaining. This actually gets, there's opportunities here because the manufacturer of the bikes is Lemco, as a Danish company. As you can see, the bikes actually attached to the bed. You can also move them. Typically, there's opportunity for gamification because there's more than one patient actually in the hospital, and they are kind of getting their bored. So they read, they actually watch movies, they follow news. Actually, I don't believe they really talk to each other. At least we have not noticed that. And what is also important is that there are different types of machines. So the sensor integration has to be also flexible. So we don't really want to have a sensor integrated in a device. We would like to have a sensor that we can detach and attach to different ones. Because you can see that the machines are different. And it would be also cool to use like the old ones where you can still use them. They're perfectly okay. They maybe don't look so fancy. They are purely mechanical, but from our perspective, they are still okay, and machines that can be used for the exercises. And it doesn't have to be for the dialysis. It might be also for other reasons. But the primary actually reasons we have the cooperation with the hospital in Sonovo is that the patients kind of need some engagement, something that actually allow them to really, because otherwise they have no purpose. Some people that actually are fit and enjoy biking, they can do, I think it was 40 kilometers, over 40 kilometers on the bed. But the guys that are not into sports, they hardly do that. That actually impacts the way their dialysis is performed. Actually, you need to use your muscles and make movements to actually make the dialysis actually kind of successful. And the gamification should be lightweight, both actually on the gaming side, but also for the patients. Because that's like me in 30 years, trying to bike. You kind of need to scale down your activities. So we don't want to have a gamification that affects the lifespan of the patients. Yes. So in this one, we can use different type of languages and engines, UI frameworks for developing the games, because as you noticed on the picture there, the guy actually has a tablet or a phone, and there's also there's another person actually is watching something or reading on the bed. So most probably what we have to use in this case, it has to be a mobile framework that will allow you to do an app and integrate with the sensor readings. Of course, you will need to process the data and investigate the sensors, the readings. We expect the sensor to be Bluetooth, accelerometer, or it's also possible to make your own, but that's not going to be easier. Typically, the Bluetooth actually sensors follow like a standard profiles, so you can actually, the measurement should be standardized, at least we expect it. So there's plenty to research and investigate. Yeah, and at the end we expect you to actually provide a software system so we can detect the movements, measure the speed, cadence, and make kind of the patients active. So we would like to see what they do, maybe measure them over a period of time or how they compare to others and so on. Yes, and as I mentioned, we need to integrate the sensor into kind of the hardware that they have, and there might be different hardware. We want the detection and the measurements be reliable, because depending on the placement and the device, the measurements might be different. So there are some challenges related to that, and we would like to have some UI for the patients to get some gamified feedback probably. And there are different ways of doing this. So that's the innovation part in the project. Trying not to kill the patients, right? Good questions? So the project idea.
Anything that immediately strikes you. Otherwise, we can have the detailed discussion post later on. But anything that is really burning out that you want to.
And the hospital is very eager to host you there.
Yes.
You can do some user studies. The person speaks English. The patients not necessary. You should be prepared for that. But Google Translator can do miracles. Yes? Yes, we will try to figure out something, but you should do also investigation. But the typical convention here is to use speed and cadence sensors for bikes. I mean, we're using bikes here as well, and there are actually sensors that you can mount on bicycles, like also for racing. I mean, those guys are not racing, but we can use the same sensors. The challenge here is to still get the readings right.
How many different kinds of lights or scans?
I mean, right now they actually have one type of the bike in the at the hospital, but we would like the system to be open.
So, let's imagine you have some small accelerometer sensor that you just attach. Christopher, you go to imagine you just attach that attach it from accelerometer to the foot of this, and then you have the speed calculation, acceleration and speed calculation out of the from the based on the rotation motion. You need to configure you need to calculate the speed and accelerometer from that. And then if you have the devices that attachable, then you can attach to this one or any other configuration of the site. All you need to know is just like kind of configure the rotation and translate basically the rotation motion into speed and acceleration. And just make sure that there is no jumps, and also there is a lot of optimization, there's a lot of data structure things that you need to do as a part of smoothing out the signal. Let's say you don't want to have like jerks in between, like there is speed and then there's suddenly no speed. Like you need to do all sorts of filtering and all that kind of stuff. That's typically what you will learn in your algorithm and data science. So algorithm part of the course. So yeah, you'll have plenty of opportunity to integrate that.
Yeah, typically the reading from the sensors are not reliable. They will give you some data, but not the really exact data. That's the kind of feature of those accelerometer readings. And some sensors already do filtering in the sensor itself, some not.
So we have some recommendation of the sensor itself, but you are also free to do your own sort of if you are inspired to use something else. So use case is really interesting. It has a real impact on patient's life. So one thing is just on this, and if you have imagine if you have built this system that is attachable to this or any other cycles, and besides that, as Christopher was mentioning, you need to measure the movement, right? Imagine some people cannot bike, but this just what they do is they lay down on the bed and they just do the movement of their the feet. That's good enough for them because they're too old. When doing the dialysis, they cannot kind of do the exercising. So imagine you have built the system and they have their shoes on. You can just attach the sensor to their shoes and they do the foot movement, and you can even translate that into like some sort of gamification for them, and that's also could be so same solution, multiple configuration is possible with this. Yeah, if you do that right. There's a lot of scope for innovation into this, and it really impacts people's life. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who is supervising the project? And
We are going to do.
okay, so you would be the people that will be going to.
I mean, we are going to have supervisors, but we are kind of going to be in contact with the hospital.
Because in the hospital they don't have people who are like embedded experts.
No.
Yeah,
No. They actually know very little about the systems.
okay, so it's
That's also a challenge.
yes, exactly. So you
So you will have your immediate supervisor who would like guide you on day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. But if you have more like sort of the problem with the if you have challenge with, let's say, with the hardware or in the program domain itself, you need to talk to, you need to understand things. So Kickoff is there, I am available, and then we also have the hospital people. They're also very open and welcome you and explain you and spend time and help you understand the problem.
Yeah, but the appointments with the hospital go through us.
Yes.
And we warn them that there will be students coming. But they said there's no problem, so we can arrange this.
So, okay, with that background that Christoph mentioned about so this is a big project that we have with the hospital. So there's a lot of plan things that goes in process. For first part of the system, which is the project that Christoph mentioned, is to calculate, generate those signals out of the patient movements and do some sort of gamification in there. So that's one project. then there is another aspect to this, which is much more like sort of human-centered sort of things that we want to do with this. So the real challenge is that in the dialysis center, people they spend 5 hours a day during the dialysis, and they do this dialysis 4 days a week. Some people do 3 days a week. Some people do even 5 days a week. So it's really, challenging process mentally, especially mentally with the people who are doing this dialysis day in and day out. So the idea is that, and they have all sorts of poor mental health, loneliness, and all sorts of things, right? So the idea with this is that, so that's sort of challenge. How do we solve this, right? So one of the things that they mention is why we even have the bicycles here, right? So the idea behind this is that if they do some sort of physical, if they're mobile, if they do some sort of physical activity, dialysis is much faster, and they also forget the loneliness part. So that's why there is some sort of physical movement the doctors recommend, and then of course if they do the exercise, the physical movement, then the idea is, okay, how do we keep them motivated, right, to do this long enough for 4 hours? They don't feel bored. So for that we envision that. Imagine they have the biking, the cycling, and then they can create their own avatar, and then they would basically go out in the city, because these people have very frail, physical health. They cannot typically move out. So the idea is that you would take let's say a city bike video for some particular location, and then you would show them in the app or wherever you could configure that, and then they basically in a group, like in dialysis center, they have 4 or 5 people doing the dialysis together. So they would all 4 or 5 people they would bike together, and then they would see each other like how far how fast somebody is going and where they are in the team. So the idea is that instead of these 3D sort of things which are boring, you would, let's say, take a video of the biking path in Sonobak, and then you would place these patients into that biking path, and they could identify themselves. It's sort of networking that you do within the game, and then they can bike, and they would see their real-time movement that you. So in this project, you will not be working primarily with the hardware part of this. It is more of like trying to see what can work with the patient. Like how do we build this system where they can see each other, interact with each other, so multiplayer sort of interaction in the system, and this video part, like what can motivate them? Because if you show them the same video every time, they will be bored, right? So there has to be some dynamism, like ability to show them different routes, different cities, different countries, and so the idea is to build that system that can actually show them and keep them engaged. So there's also aspect to in understanding what they want. So you would have opportunity to go and interview them, ask them. So there's a lot of research scope also within the project. Yeah. So typically what you would do is like add a gamification layer, and then instead of making 3D videos, you take 3D sort of models. You take a video, real world video, and then overlay everything on there, and then you add the social connectivity aspect. See how the gamification works with the elderly people, because it's totally different than with the young people. With the elderly people, they are not so excited about things that we are excited about, right? That's also something to explore and see what can work with them. Of course, and then the whole idea about groups and empathy and like being together and all of that has to be somehow reflective into your system. So that's the main idea with that. So what you start working with, let's say you are given the inputs from the cycle, like you assume that you have the inputs, the speed and accelerometer, inclination, everything, all the sensors that you need, you have them like simulated, and then you start working on this part of the system. So that's main part where you would be working in. Of course, the video orchestration, avatar factory, and networking syncing, syncing activity across the patients, giving people flexibility to join the team, join the routes, or even before they start. Let's say they start they choose a particular route. They can vote, okay, where we want to go. So all of these things could be part of your system. Of course, there is a lot of data structure thingy in there, because this is not very simple and straightforward. If you put the video, if you put the avatars on the video, there is a lot of data structuring thing that you need to do in real time. So there's a lot of challenges in terms of applying the data structure algorithms that you learn. But again, there's a lot of scope for innovation. There's no hard sort of set of requirement. The primary thing is that you should be able to do the video orchestration of the factory and network syncing. That's a sort of core part of it. Apart from that, you're flexible to to do any sort of innovation that you want to do on top of that. So there's a lot of flexibility. Okay, so there's a really benefits from for the patients. You try to simulate them and make the whole experience of dialysis really pleasant for them. Encourage physical activity again, which is a really key aspect, as I mentioned in the starting. If they don't do the physical activity, the dialysis process itself also prolongs. And also for clinicians, they are also happy if they see the patients are engaged, and so that's really good for them. And the solutions that we talked about initially, right? This should be scalable. Let's say in different rooms, different teams, the dialysis centers they should be able to team up. The system has to be plug and play based. They can put it in like any number of teams, any number of people. So that's sort of main thing that they are looking for. Any question on this one? Yes. Yes and no. So typically the majority of them are elderly people, above 40, 55 years. That's where typically this. But there are patients, the younger patients as well. So you need to once you finalize the project, you need to go and visit and ask all sorts of questions to the hospital and see which user group you want to target. You may not be targeting, let's say, the younger. If they are younger, you just focus on the elderly. It's up to you what age group you want to target, because you're right. Depending on the age group, you have to think about this whole gamification approach differently. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So idea is that you can make the whole gamification available in their phone itself. Right? So either do this on their phone or on the hospital display. So it's up to you. If you make it as a web based, so they can like watch it in their phone, or they can watch it on the hospital tablet they are provided. Yes. Any other immediate questions? Of course, I know there will be tons of questions, and devils is always in the detail. But for now, if you have any just immediate questions, I'll be happy to. Yes.
So, when you're on a real bike ride outside, of course you slow down. If you're going uphill, you pedal in slower. If you're going downhill, you might pedal faster. You might stop at a traffic light and wait for 2 to 3 minutes. And I know nothing about that, so I'm working purely on assumptions here. But wouldn't you be more or less pedaling at a constant pace most of the time? So how would the frame rate mapping even make sense here, combining these two aspects?
So you would be stopping as well. So if they see the traffic light, they would, of course, they have to stop it, and that's where the whole innovation part is. How do you make that work, right? So that's where the fun begins, right? So it's again, these kind of projects are like, there's no one right answer. Typically, the projects that you have been doing so far, like definite steps. In this, there's a lot of open-ended question, and you are not expected to answer all of them. It's just you try and document all your journey, all the steps that you did, and try to demonstrate at the best of your capacity. There is no one right sort of answer that we are looking for in this project. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Do we have to record that video, or can we use?
Yeah, you can use existing one. You can record your own. It's like up to you how you want to do that. Like typically, maybe you could for demonstration, you record 2 or 3 video by your phone, and you do the proof of concept, and that's good enough. And you build a system in a way that is scalable. If you have 10,000 videos, 10,000 different cities and routes, the system can handle. So that's sort of software design, where the software design aspect and the modular system would come into place, that it can handle the load. But just for the demo, you can build, have just 2 or 3 video that you show. Yeah. But your system should be scalable. That's the main thing that, also from your exam point of view, if you can demonstrate that you can build such a system that is configurable and scalable and really modular, then you're good. Yeah.
research and available kind of commercial products, there are already a lot of things there. So you can learn also a lot. Unfortunately, the commercial solutions are extremely expensive.
Yes, and that's why one of the reason why hospital wanted to see if this can be really portable, because then the commercial solution hospital doesn't want to stick to one company because they have this bikes from 10 different companies, and each company different company wants to sell them their own specific product that they can only use with their device, right? So the idea is that you build this like portable sort of solution that is can be used across devices. That's the main theme behind it.
So we get vendor independent.
Yes.
Because otherwise the vendor login is kind of huge. Like with my book.
Any other thoughts, questions, comments before we move on?
Maybe what we can mention also is that the system is used in Denmark in general, in many places. So we work with the hospital in Sonderborg, but potentially the impact is kind of
So the impact of this system is going to be really big. If you can crack it, if you can build the prototype of this, you can imagine this system is going to be next 1 year. This system is going to be in the clinical study across Denmark. That's the sort of scope that we are talking about. Because this, and it's really at very few places across the world that they have been trying to sort of come up with this kind of system where they are focusing on patient well-being and during the dialysis. Typically the patient come and they do the dialysis and they go away. Like their whole mental health and how to motivate them and how to keep them engaged. That part has, research-wise, that part is still untapped because there were not systems that could do that kind of work earlier. Yes. Maybe we take the question. Yes, please go ahead.
Then, like, as far as I understand, would this mostly be like a proof of concept that we work on, and then in the future it can be expanded upon?
Yes, that's the main idea. So you do the proof of concept, and then it can be taken to next step. Maybe if you want to do, if you're inspired enough to take this as a bachelor thesis project, that's also a scope. Because there are a lot of other things that we didn't talk about this project here. So
Yeah,
there are other aspects to this. Yeah.
I'm just asking because this seems like a massive undertaking for a semester project. It seems like it has a very many places where it can expand more.
Yeah, definitely. So this is open for your bachelor thesis project as well. But the scope of what we just described is limited to the semester project. Yes. So if there are no further questions, yes.
I know this is way out of scope for this project. This is more out of personal interest. But is there like a way to integrate this with 360-degree videos and VR headsets to be used?
So the problem with the VR headset, so we talked about the VR headset. The VR headsets are not going to work, especially with the age group that you're talking about, because there is a lot of issues with the VR headset. There are a lot of things with the VR feedback. People are not interested and not willing to use. And the beauty of the solution that we just proposed is that instead of mobile tablet, you could just display that on the TV screen, and they're happy. Two elderly people sitting in the their chairs, sipping their coffee, and then biking along. Like so, along with also apart from dialysis itself, the implications are into other sort of rehabilitation space as well. Yeah. Which is VR is again limiting to, of course, it gives you thrill for small time, but for longer use, imagine 5 hours the VR headset. Yeah, they will be much more sick than they ever were. Yes.
It's a beautiful route in India also.
Again, so that's a main part that you want to inspire. You want to see what can click with them. Yeah, that's the innovation part that you need to crack. Yes. All right. So thank you, Krishna, for taking out your time. And so, as I mentioned, if you have more questions, technical questions about hardware and anything, we are available. And that's what I'm also going to talk about how to do this coordination and everything together. All right. So I have a couple of more projects. Again, on the same health team. So the next project is called Health Sync, which is basically a platform which allows to integrate health data from various wearable sensors that we need, smartwatches, any other wearable device that you need. So the main motivation behind this project is that by the way, how many of you wear smartwatches of some sort? Oh, plenty of people in the room. So the idea is that you are probably wearing smartwatches of different brands or from different companies with different configurations. All of them typically give you heart rate, activity data, and sort of basic physiological parameters, right? The idea is that imagine if I can pool all your data at one place and do some sort of study about, let's say, your health, behavior, or anything that is of interest to me as a clinician, how would I go about it? Like, how would I gather all your data from all your smartwatches, because you are wearing from different brands, and they come in different configuration that give different output of the data. Let's say step count has a different definition in each smart watch. They have their own definition of like how they measure the steps, right? So you see there are a lot of like differences and variegatedness in the smartwatches or the wearables that you wear. The idea is that if you want to use this data for effective, let's say, clinical study, or at the population wise or at scale, how we go about, right? So in typical clinical study, they just basically pool the data from different patients, and that's what this platform is about. That you would build a plugin based system, a platform basically that can pull the data from different vendors backend. So typically all these vendors they have their backend system, which allows you to, after authentication, you can actually pull your data at one place. So this with the project HealthSync, this is actually sponsored by the German startup Corway, which is basically works with the IBD patients primarily, which I will be talking about a little bit later. But before that, so you will basically build a system, build the plugins for different variables, and then pull all of the data into your system. Then the next step is also to do data standardization. So if you want to use this data for any meaningful purpose, let's say you want to build a machine learning algorithm or do any sort of analytics on top of that, if you get data from 10 different variables that comes in 10 different shapes, let's say just even heart rate data, right, or the step count data that comes in different format, how do you put everything together? So you need to do the data standardization, data cleaning. So you need to build this pipeline for, so once you have the plugin, the data comes into your system, and then you need to sort of clean it and then store also into your own database for doing the further analytics on top of that. So basically you would make your data ready for ML, doing machine learning or AI on top of that. Yeah, that's the main sort of idea. And the next part of the project is, so there are two parts. One is just pulling up the data, and where the term HealthSync comes in. You need to pull the data from different variables, and then do the cleaning and standardization and make it machine learning ready. Since as a part of your project, you don't have time to collect the data from so many people, so many patients. So for doing the machine learning on top of that, you will be provided a data set that has been collected in just exact way that I just described. So that has been collected by this company, Corway, and they are willing to provide this data for from IBD patients, people with the chronic inflammation in their gut. So the idea is that they collect the data from smartwatches, and then they use that data, heart rate variability, activity, temperature, and all sorts of data, to build a machine learning algorithm that can predict, okay, in 1 week you are going to have inflammation, or your chances of inflammation are going up. So it's a 2 weeks prediction in the future. So there's a second part of the project where you will have the ready-made data available to you. Imagine that data has been collected in just the way like you build your plugin, and since you don't have time to do all sort of data collection in this time span, so this data will be provided to you. And you put this data into your system, like database that you create, and from there you build the machine learning pipeline on top of that for doing the IBD prediction. So there are three aspects to this project. A is this diverse set of variables that you want to integrate. Second is that you do the data standardization, cleaning, do the data standardization pipeline, cleaning and all, and then store the data in a more reliable way, and that it's shared. It's easy to share this data. And then third aspect is to build the machine learning model for doing the predictive analytics for IBD prediction on top of this data. And this data, of course, again, will be provided by signing an NDA for with the teams that are picking up this project. Any question on this project? Yes. So company is giving you the data set they have collected. They have collected via some third party tools in different way. But what you are building also that solution for them. Like they don't have their own solution for collecting this data. They are using a third party service which charges them really hell lot of money. What they are looking for is having this plugin based system where okay, as a patient I can go and select, let's say I have a Garmin watch or I have a Polar Vanity Sense, I have Apple Watch or any other wearable that I have. I go and select, say, hey, this is the wearable that I'm wearing, and then I give the authorizations, and then all the data comes in. That's the main. As a patient, the patient will give authorization saying that, hey, I'm willing to give my data, and they go onto your platform and say, I connect to my wearables, and then they put their credentials, then you put all their data into your system, and then you clean and do all sorts of stuff, and then make it available for doing the machine learning. No, it's not in-house, and this is, and the way of doing is, of course, the way they have collected is, it's also not this standard way of collecting. They have done it by like asking people to download their own data and then give it to them. So there are different means that they have collected this data. But in the end, this is how the data should look like. Once you pull it from different variables, clean it, store it. That's how the final cleaned version would be given to you, because you don't have time to, let's say, ask 100 or 1,000 patients to give your data. That's a different kind of study, but here the primarily focus is on engineering aspect of Yeah, so yes, in the project description there is details, at least two plugins that you need to build, and if you need hardware, let's say smartwatches or something, we have in the department, we have them available if the project chooses to use some of them. So at least two, so that you show that you can build an extensible system. If there's a new variable that comes in, you can build the plugin, and the plugin fits into your platform. So that's the main sort of theme behind this. It's not, the goal is not to build 10, 20 different, but show that you can build an extensible system, and that can handle any sorts of data. Yeah. The Corway is a startup company that works with the IBD, especially with the IBD patients. So yes, they're a startup. They're making money. So, but your project is, so what they're giving to you is primarily the data set to work with the IBD. So for now, it's mostly research. Of course, the company have the plan to make money, but right now, what the stage they are into the research, because this research is still not mature. Getting the IBD right, so the prediction of 1 week, 2 weeks, 7 weeks, a month in advance, a year in advance, still is ongoing research. It's not settled sort of things that they already cracked the code. No, it's still Yes. So they, again, you're right. These devices that we wear, they are not sort of clinical grade, and that's the reason. So what these kind of tools are used is the pre-screening. So once I get an indication that something might be coming, that's all. It's not going to be used for clinical treatment. For that you have to approach the system, but it kind of acts as a pre-screening. That, hey, if you see some indication, you go and consult your doctor. Like that's the main sort of overarching theme behind this. Otherwise, for clinical grade, you need a different. So for getting the IVD, there is a stool test, there is a blood test called CRP, which is like sort of gold standard to confirm that somebody has an inflammation in their blood. Yeah. So, but this tool again itself is really powerful, because it acts as a pre-screening tool, and that gives people that they should be very like start thinking about it and be more cautious. Yes. Yes.
So you said the company is researching, and the idea is to download the timers of IBD to the app.
Mm-hmm.
The algorithm of when those weeks come for the IBD, do we get an algorithm from the company?
No, you need to build the algorithm for yourself, and you get the data, you build the algorithm, and whatever, like depending on what you learn in your machine learning course, if you want to build a simple machine learning algorithm, you want to go with the deep learning algorithm, if you want to use any other, so it's that part is kind of flexible. What you get is data set, you build your own predictive analytics. Yeah. Any other question on this? If not, then we move. Of course, I'm the contact person for them because they're German-based. They cannot. I tried to invite them for the talk, but they couldn't make it. But I'm the contact person for this. So if you have any other questions on this about the data or anything, once you select the group, then we will talk more about the data and the processing detail. All right. The last project. So imagine, so in a typical hospital setting, again we have a lot of health theme focus this year, but again the projects are quite different, are of a different range based on your own flavor and your own interest. You can pick and choose. This is a bit different, which is primarily more heavily AI focused, but of course this also has other angles to the other three courses that you're doing. This let me tell you a story before I talk about. So imagine you are going to the hospital. You're sitting with your doctor and like describing your problem. I have stomachache, I have headache from last 2 days, something. You're giving basically a whole description, right? Imagine you have a system. Okay. Then at the end of the discussion, the doctor is listing or jotting down the issues that you have, and then he gives the prescriptions and all of that data or prescription and also your problem. He has to log into the EHR, electronic health record, into the hospital system. So that's a sort of routine procedure that doctors do. They also give the prescription. They also log that into the hospital system. And that's a time-consuming task for the doctors. Imagine you go and naturally talk to your doctor, and at the end of the conversation, you have an AI solution that actually summarizes what you are saying to your doctor, also lists the problem that you just talked about, also lists the potential the treatment path that a doctor can take. He suggests the treatment path, and all of this is available to your doctor in just when you are done with your conversation with the doctor, right? So that's a solution we are building in this project. Is an OPD Vertex. So as I mentioned, the clinicians or nurses that you interact with, it consumes their time to build this prescription and log the whole data into the EHR system. And also, when you're talking to these experts and they suggest you some solutions, but it so happens that there's new research that comes up, right? And there might be the pathway that they might miss when they're suggesting some solution to you, right? It often happens that they overlook some steps and then if you are using an AI solution, that can actually also help the doctors as well to suggest what could be the alternative possible way that they have not thought of, right, or not considering. So it's like kind of second hand opinion to the doctor itself. So this, the solution that you provide, it's not just for the patient, but it's mostly as in assistant to the doctors and nurses themselves. So you basically build a system that hears the conversation. At the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, it produces a report listing your problems, listing what the doctor has suggested, and then in the one click after the conversation, doctor just can click, make a one click, and then your EHR record is logged into their system without them doing any manual. If there is any manual change, they should also be allowed to make the edits. And also, after the conversation, you take the whole conversation and give it to an LLM, and then it summarizes it for you, makes it in a proper format that can be entered into electronic health records. And also the suggestion tool that you could suggest to the doctors what could be the possible treatment plan to avoid oversight of treatment. So the challenge is, this problem is more or less solved if you give your conversation to any of the public or any of the private LLM company, ChatGPT or Anthropic or anybody. This problem is more or less they can do what you are trying to do here. But the challenge with the health data is that you cannot, or hospitals cannot give the patient's data to any of these private companies. So what you are going to do in this project is you are going to build, or not build, you are going to use the existing, the publicly available LLMs, and you are going to host everything locally on your computer. So this is again, this is a proof of concept. You're not expected to run, let's say, 10,000 billion parameters of LLM. Whatever small LLM that you can pick, you should pick that one, and then host the LLM on your local machine. Record the conversation, decipher, use another LLM to to decipher the patient's and doctor conversation, and then at the end of this generate the summary, and then use the summary to come up with better solutions that again are suggested by another LLM that you host locally. And at the end of it also has suggestion mode, basically, which can flag if the doctors have missed anything. So it's like kind of tools for the doctors as well. And in the end, doctors can verify what the system has suggested, and just one click done. It saves a lot of time to them. It also helps them, in reducing any error, human error that could possibly come with this, without this. So that's this system called OPD Vertex. Okay. Yes. So you are not going to use any cloud LLMs. You are going to use anything local. That's the one, because the privacy, as I said, that's the main crux of this problem. Otherwise, technically, the problem is more or less solution exists, but the problem is the privacy, and that's a really big when it comes to the health data. No hospitals or no clinic wants to share their data with any of these private companies with their LLM. So that's the solution that you are going to come up about. So again, the system design, again, you're an engineering student, so for you the main aspect is the system design. It has to be modular. You should be able to switch any of the intermediate steps, maybe the voice deciphering LLM that you're using, or any other, or the summarization LLM that you would be using, and the UI, all database, all the components that you build, they should be flexible. You should be able to switch them if you need to be. So that's the main sort of design process where you will put a lot of efforts. Okay, the flow would be appointment. So you book an appointment system for the patients, and then during the consultancy process, you hear their voice, and then you generate the summary, you generate the suggestion for the doctor, and you create a screen, let's say, for the doctor's approval, and in the end you generate a PDF. You want to send it via email, so you could also have that as a feature into your system. So that's sort of main how the flow would look like in a clinical setup. Yes, as I already mentioned, that in case it's also acts as a clinical safety layers based on the conversation, because the LLM could figure out those nuances which doctors sometimes overlook, and then it could also suggest something to the doctors itself. So that's a really powerful way. And it's not just for doctors. Let's say you're talking to different interface in the hospital system. You're talking to a nurse, or you're talking to a doctor. So you could also have the system configured. Are you talking to a nurse, or are you talking to a doctor? And based on that, you can also generate a different summary, different suggestions, and different sort of flow for them. So it's just not two interfaces, but there could be many other interfaces that you could imagine in the typical hospital setting. So you try to build your system in a more modular way. Of course, if you can just build for doctor, that's good enough. If you can build for doctor and nurse, that's also good enough. So depending on time horizons that you have, you can try to think of how many modalities that you want to cover within your project scope. But the bottom line is that your system should be flexible to, let's say, if you want to add other modality or other sort of underlying models or anything, it should be adaptable to that. All right. Yes, and again, it's not pure AI. That's never going to happen in the medical sort of space. It's always human in loop. So all of your summary, your flow, everything will be again rechecked by the doctors in the end. So, but it's just very quick for them to glance it and say yes or no, or edit it. So that's project OPD. Okay, in terms of impact, it reduced the documentation time for the doctors, and improve the prescription accuracy as well, because it often happens that we might think that doctors know everything, but the new research comes and they might not have updated with that. So all of that can
Is
be
this
really powerful
sample,
tool.
you know, sample
Yeah, clinical
project, or
consistency
this is what we're gonna have to do?
improves it, and also it has scope for
Just one
even
example, right?
small clinic. Let's say the doctor runs their private clinic.
Was there 6
That
samples
also
in
has
total?
use case for this, or large
And we
hospital
have to pick the one.
as well. Like where you can imagine you have
If you
nurses,
say
you
that
have
we can,
doctors, and
you know,
you have different
upload
departments that are
our own
interacting
idea
with
and
each
then
other.
we can
So
validate
at every
it.
stage, this solution can be integrated. But from the scope of the project, you're free to use, free to choose which, like one or two, like the stakeholders that you want to cater to. Yeah. Okay. Any questions, comments on this? So this has more AI focus, but again, here AI is not like we are not going to fine tune these models. That's not main sort of thrust of this. The thrust is that you know how to use them effectively, and make the system out of it, right? Yes.
Yes, I got some words about the end-to-end workflow.
Mhm.
Would it be better if they just do the control someone for example, the broker team, someone will connect it, but the AI knows which one to connect it.
No, this appointment is not for that. It's like, okay, I want to go and see a doctor. So your doctor would have his own schedule. Like the typically way you book your doctor's appointment, you book it manually. So it's not automated. It's like you have an interface where they can go and book, and then when they book, they come for the consultancy, and that's time they click, and then it starts recording. Let's say you have UI interface. Imagine you have an UI interface where you book the appointment, and then when the patient comes, you click on the consultancy, and everything starts from there. Yeah. So this is a pre-step, like basically putting them in queue for scheduling. Yeah. Yes. Again, there are plenty of models if you want to focus on a particular. There's no barrier to that what you want to focus on. Yes, the models in English are really good. They can do the job really nice. But there are other models in other language as well. If you are inspired to use other language, please feel free. There's no restriction from the course point of view. The main thrust is that you are thinking in terms of system design. That's the main thing that you should be focusing on. Yeah. And for other aspects, there's a lot of flexibility that which model to use. I have some recommendations based on my own research. I actively research in this area, so I have some recommendations which can work really good. But you're also free to use. There's no limitation from project point of view. Yes. Mm-hmm. No, because you have your own AI hosted on your own premises or on your machine, like your own environment. Then because you're not sending any data to outside. You're not going to making an API call to open ChatGPT here. Say. You're just taking an LLM, but it's your own AI. You are hosting that. Let's say you are taking a model from Hugging Face, where you have this LLM hosted. You just install it on your machine, build an interface, build an API that your UI can interact with. So you have your own hosted LLM. Let's say the model. Is this the mode you're taking the existing model?
Sorry, I'm a little confused. Is it trying to say that we are taking and calling an API?
So this is
from
more about
provider
your data going out
or we're just
to the world.
getting the data, open source data, and then make the AI.
Please, yeah, sorry. Please calm down. Yeah, sorry.
If they're taking our own data,
Yeah, so I was mentioning that the main idea is that it doesn't go out to the private LLM, privately hosted LLM. Go Google, check. Yeah, it's yes. Yes.
What about using like an online medical MCP? Is that fine, even though the model is hosted locally?
Yeah. So the models, your interface, everything has to be locally. You can use your online in that sense. I don't know what's your definition of online, but if it's your own model that you are hosting and making it available online, that's also perfectly fine.
No, for example, like there exists like databases for like medical diagnosis already, right? It's sort of the model can query for questions into the database while it's getting output.
You cannot send. So the whole idea is that you cannot send the patients anything about confidential about patients to outside world. That's the main sort of solution that you are looking for. But then there is this Mad LLM from Google. It's like, it's really good. It exactly does what you are just describing. It's like LLM specifically designed for medical query. So other the generic LLMs you can ask anything, right? But these are specially trained on all the research papers out there. So they can actually answer than that better than most doctors, honestly. Yeah. Yes.
Can we use AWS Bedrock?
Yes, you can use the whole concept that we are trying to simulate here is that you have perfect control on your environment. You're not sharing any sensitive information to. Of course, in case let's say you want to host it like in future, like in a real solution, that you have to have somewhere to host it, right? But for project demo, it's okay to if you host it locally, or maybe as Due provides the cloud, the space for you for the demo purposes as well. You probably have used it earlier or not? As Due provides the space for hosting and for doing the project. You know, if you want to do something with the model training or anything, as Due gives you that facility. You cloud from as Due that has that facility.
Mine was just listed. I wasn't sure if you mentioned or not, but is there a company or specifically somebody who we're working with on this lab project, or?
It's again, it's a part of big project, the research project that I'm doing in my lab, data science lab. It's a sub part of that same project. So again, the main interface. If you have any technical questions, if you have any sort of, I would be the one. Okay. Any other quick questions? Yes. The patient makes appointment before seeing the doctor.
How does it work if you make an appointment, let's say for tomorrow at 3 and the doctor gets the transcript, is what you have to open?
No, doctor doesn't get the transcript. So transcript gets generated when the patient is interacting with the doctor, like in the clinic. The appointment happens before. It's like you are going to your GP, right? You're just booking appointment on online system, and then you go and talk to your GP. That's the way the consultancy part is. It's not before. All the summary and everything happens when you are interacting with the doctor. Yeah. Okay. If for more technical questions and more detailed drill down things, we can connect a little bit later once you select the project. I will be sharing the detailed project descriptions of all the projects that we just talked about. How much time have we left? Okay, we are really running out of the time. I am going to rush to this presentation. Probably since you are in the fourth semester, you kind of know how the system or the student projects or semester projects run here in SU. Again, the key emphasis here that I want to highlight is that the process is equally important as the prototype, the final prototype. You have to follow the software engineering process and document each and every step. And because they are really important for the rubric that we are going to talk about, how you will be evaluated in the end. All of these projects you could do, let's say, like for multiple years, right, together. But what you are going to judge is based on how you document your whole journey that you do within the limited time frame that you have here in the semester. Okay, so we are here for the kickoff. So now next thing is the group formation that we are going to do in a moment. I'm going to explain it in a moment. And okay, then question about the lecture room. So this is the room that we are going to use for regular interactions. So this is our first meeting, kickoff. Then we would have mid-semester, then midterm evaluation, and then general seminar in the end. And then we'll be meeting here in this room, and of course in the between there will be many Q&A sessions would be needed because you will have a lot of questions once you see the project and you start diving deep into that. So we'll regularly meet, and all those meetings will happen here because we have this room booked for the entire semester. Okay. Project room booking. So this is typically a system that you are already aware within SDU how to find your project rooms and book that. In case you don't, you can approach me later. Okay, about the project groups. So we have around 124 participants for this project. So we are going to form 21 groups. and there will be 19 groups of group size 6, and there will be 2 groups that can be of size 5. Sizes are pretty much like non-flexible because of we have to assign the supervisors and we have to recruit them beforehand. So all the plannings regarding supervisor recruitment has been done. So there is not possibility to reduce or increase the project size now. So it's very strict because sometimes students come and ask me, hey, can we have group of 4 or group of 8 or 7? No, that's not possible. So there will be only 2 possibilities: 19 groups of size 6 and 2 groups of size 5, because we have 24 students. That's why there is a concession for the last 2 groups if you want to work in a smaller team. Any question on this? Okay. Now, so for this semester project, we will have 7 supervisors, and maybe I can ask the supervisors to stand up and so you recognize them. Once you select the project, then the supervisors will be assigned to you. Maybe you can all stand up for a moment so that they know who you are. They will be your point of contact for day-to-day query or anything that you need. Again, I want to emphasize that your supervisors may not be the expert in all, domain expert in all they are technical expert, but they may not be the domain expert in all the subjects, let's say clinical queries or anything. It's just that they are facilitators for you. If you have any questions, they can approach the company or they can approach us. So don't expect them to have know-how of the business, all the business use case. But they are very good in the technical, helping you in the technical aspects of your projects, day-to-day query. But in case don't expect that they would know your business use case in and out. So you can together, but they will be the facilitator for you at any stage where you are stuck. They will help you out. Okay. You will have, just like the previous semester, you will have to book the appointment with your supervisors, and that you can do once we form the group. You need to contact them individually, and who will be your supervisor will be decided based on what project you pick out of the project list. And I will be sending the form for you to fill in which project that you pick up. After that, we will assign the supervisors, right? And then you need to book a regular appointment with them. Yeah, and then they will, from that point on, they will take on. Okay, so next week would be for group formation. So after this lecture, I will open up the registration, so you start thinking about your teams and projects that you want to work on. Okay. You need to make a work agreement, just like the one that you did in the last semester. You need to make a work agreement and agree with what you do and what's your working style, and you agree with your supervisor. So both of you are in the same page. Your team and supervisors are in the same page. So you need to do that and clearly mention your working style before you begin the project execution. Okay, this is important. So for the semester project, and we will have. We will use the rubric to evaluate the project, and all as I have been really emphasizing that all the intermediate steps are really important, so that you document and work on them really as if they are the final prototype, right? So you need to work on the rubric. So here is the rubric problem analysis and requirements, system design, implementation, testing, validation, and of course the report writing. All of these are really important steps. Sometimes I see a tendency that students are writing this report in the very last week, and the report is really not up to the mark. The prototype is really good. They have worked really hard in all the aspects. But if the report is really bad, then that's the first interface that you have with your examiner. That's where he starts, putting you. Should I put in 7 or 10 grade? So, and your presentation is then just doesn't move much. If it is like at max he can go from 7 to 10 if you present it really good. But if you really want to start with the 10 or 12, then you have your presentation is the first index to your external examiner, because see, your supervisors have seen your reports. I have seen your reports, or I have seen your working throughout the semester, but the examiners hasn't. He hasn't met you before, right? For him, your report is indexed. So make sure that you put a lot of effort in the report if you really want to be in the top grade category. So, but nevertheless, this is the rubrics that we are going to use for the final evaluation. So there is a transparency. So you are not, worried about where my marks has gone. So you know why you are getting a certain grades if you're getting in the end. Okay. Then after you have chosen your project, then you would make the project proposal, which is like 10 pages, which basically lists the background, aim, objective, initial methods, and architecture that you are going to use. That is going to happen in the week. Yeah. So the project proposal is of 10 page, and make sure that you make the project proposal in a way that you can use it in your final report. So you are not doing it twice. You can use it there as well. All right. So then you make the start making the architecture and the project writing down the project proposal. Then you will have it reviewed by your supervisors, and I will also have a look in the semester. I will also have a look on the project proposal, and if there is anything changes, if any changes are needed, I will be giving you the feedback on them, and then you submit the project in its learning, and thereafter you start your sprints, regular sprints. Okay, then we have the midterm semester seminar. It's like 5 minutes elevator pitch of your project and your proposed solutions and what sort of new things that you have decided to do on the project. So that will happen in the week 15. I will be posting you as we go along, but just to let you know that this is coming. Yeah, this will be the elevator pitch that is expected of you. In 5 minutes, you will basically summarize what project you picked and what is sort of proposed solution that you're giving. All right, and then in the end, we will have the final general seminar that will invite all the companies to have your final solution, to see your final solutions. You will have a chance to show them, and also maybe contact them if they want to continue the project with you for bachelor thesis or even after graduate. Cool. So we'll have the final semester and then the final report. So of course the final report will include all these sections. I'll be sharing a template with you, but that will be a little bit later for the final report writing. And the rule for report is the PDF should not be more than 40 pages. How much time is left? Now the most important part, the final examination. You will have the oral presentation, just like the previous semester, 10 minutes oral presentation, and then individual questioning for 15 minutes, and the examiners will use the rubrics that I just talked about for evaluation. Of course, remember to bring your ID card when you go for the exam. Thank you very much. Any question? Yes. No, but you need to agree with your supervisors what works best for you. But you need to use a methodology. Like you cannot just say, I remember in our head, and that's how we are going to do. You have to pick a thing that makes rationally sense for you. Yeah.